Um, so obviously, I have to go to the contrast where this year the Republicans have no party platform. Um, and I believe that Trump has no published plans for what he will do if reelected. Um, I mean, you can correct me if that's not correct, but I know for
I
sure.
don't think it matters at all.
I mean, okay. I mean, except that we've, I believe that we've suffered from Trump not having a plan to address coronavirus. And
Oh,
now, well, hold on. I'll give you this: that party platforms are generally, I don't know, close to meaningless. But it is weird that the Republicans are just not issuing a platform at all. And also, all right, then we get to the RNC. There are a dozen keynote speaker spots um, for the 4 nights of the Republican convention. And Trump is one of those spots. He's actually four of those spots because 4 spots because he's speaking every night. But half of the spots, there's Trump and there are 5 other Trumps speaking at the convention. So 6 out of 12 keynote spots are members of the Trump family. Melania, Eric, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Tiffany. Um, which, I mean, you could argue that none of that matters, but it's weird.
okay. I think you've made my point.
Which is
Now,
what? No, wait, what's your point?
you just said that I could argue that none of it matters, and you're right.
I mean, it may
So,
not matter. Trump may get a bump because his base, his approval bumps up by 1/10 of a percentage point every time he goes on TV. He draws his people back into the fold. Um, so maybe he gets a bigger bump than the Democrats. I kind of doubt it because um, the only poll that was correct last time says that only 88% of people who voted for Trump last time are voting for him this time.
okay. Um, I I don't really think it matters what the polls are saying right now, but um, I mean, some polls say he's doing very well and gaining on Biden.
Which
Some,
polls?
but it's the there was a recent poll by
Rasmussen?
yeah, and they
Yeah,
said
those
that
are the guys. Those are the landline pollsters. They call people on their home phones.
okay, well, they say that Trump and Biden are neck and neck. So
Uh,
anyway, I wanted to ask you a question.
okay.
Um, did your media inform you of anything that Trump did this week that stands out as being notable?
Today he had a press conference about convalescent plasma. You
What do you think
talking
about
about
that,
that?
Rick?
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
no, I
think
read
about
up
that?
on it. I mean, I've been haven't you been aware of convalescent plasma for months at this point?
Yes, yes.
All right, so it's not exactly new news. Um, ni- 97,300 Americans suffering from coronavirus have been given convalescent plasma. What they do is, if you've recovered from coronavirus, they'll have you give blood and they'll spin it out and they'll pull out the antibodies that you've developed. Um, and then they'll run it into somebody who currently has an active infection. And um, it's people are the the evidence is it's there's evidence that it's helpful because you're getting antibodies. Um, there's not easily quantified evidence because almost I think everybody, all the 97,000 people who've been given this, Americans who've been given it, were given it to try to save their lives rather than as part of a double-blind study where half of the people get, where they, make sure you got equivalent groups of people and half the people get a placebo. That wasn't what the deal was. The deal was just straight up trying to save people's lives. And they were able to tease some evidence that it's helpful, that people given convalescent plasma during their first 3 days of hospitalization had an 8.7% mortality rate versus people given plasma on day 4 or later had an 11.9% mortality rate. But again, like it's hard to, it looks like it's helpful without being like an absolute grand slam. It's one more thing to have in our arsenal of ways to treat the shit.
Okay.
All right. And what Trump said is
now,
go ahead and use it without waiting, even though that's kind of what they're doing anyway, without waiting for FDA, to say that 100% that it's effective.
All right. So this is what Trump did, and this is the part that you're not aware of. Convalescent plasma, this treatment was funded by Trump. Trump is the one that allocated the money for this treatment to be studied. It was many millions of dollars. I don't remember whether he said 40 million or 200 million.
35 million.
Okay, so
the first million
it was more
coming
than
from
that.
Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton.
So
kicked in the first
he
million
gave
dollars.
the money to do this. All right, I'm still talking. He gave the money. He gave the money months ago in the very beginning because he thought it had merit. And what has happened is they have found that this study showed that this plasma treatment increases your chance of survival by 35%. Now, if you give people some idea, if you had AIDS and you had a 35% chance of increasing your survival, that would be a wild success. If you had something that previously would simply kill you, 35% is a great advantage. Now, as far as what the FDA says is that they've given it today. The reason they made the announcement today is because today they decided that the drug was completely safe and that it should be used as an emergency procedure, which means that they approve it, but they're going to keep studying it to see. It's not a complete approval like it would get 2 years from now after they've studied thousands more.
Yeah.
But in an emergency condition like we're in, the FDA has said that is 1, safe, and 2, effective. All right? So Trump was responsible for this, and he has reduced your rate of death. He's increased your chances of survival by 35%. So that's a pretty good thing, wouldn't you say, Rick?
Yeah, it's a good thing among other stuff that's been developed. 35%, it's tough to say. Like the statistics I just quoted the statistics are wobbly because it's early times in the history of the disease.
If what we're dealing with now is if you had, because of your comorbidities, a 6% chance of dying if you get the disease?
In the early days of COVID in the first
No, but now,
2 months.
it's about 6%, right?
No,
6%?
no, no. In the early days, it was about 8%. Now it's about 2%.
Okay, so you've got a 98% chance of surviving this disease, right?
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
Okay, but okay. Well, now you have 35% more of that 2%. So you now have a 98.7, what is it? A
No, it
90
doesn't work that
take
way
take
because it doesn't work that way because close to 100,000 Americans have already been given this therapy. So it's likely that the reduced mortality is some of that is due to this stuff already being used because it's been used as as long as it's been available.
All
So
right. Well, the point I'm trying to make is, Rick, is that you can leave the house, and I'd just like to say that, as well as the fact that in every single state, the disease is going away. It's on the downslide in every single state. And I even have a theory about that. My theory, because I was trying to figure out why is it going down why is the
well, I
death
can
rate
tell you why, but
and
okay,
the
go ahead.
infection rate going down in every state? And I think that the original theory was that when summer came, the heat would was inhospitable to the virus. And then when July came, there was a spike, and everyone said, ha, heat doesn't matter. I think that it had to get super hot. And right now, it's boiling, at least where I am. And I think the heat is inhospitable to it, and it's going away on its own.
I have an alternate theory. All this week, the number of tests given every day were roughly 25% less than the number of tests given 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, every day, 800,000 tests given. All this past week, we had 4 days where 600 the tests were in the 600,000s. The last 2 days, they've been in the 700,000. So if you give 25% fewer tests, the number of cases you find are going to be proportionately reduced. And that's what
Yeah,
we've
but
been finding.
okay, but the death rate follows the case rate, and the death rate is going down in every state in America.
I don't know. The death rate's down by what, 5%, 10%?
I don't know the percentage. I look at if anybody wants to look at the grid, at the graphs, go to Worldometer, and you can see there are fewer people dead now. That it's on a slide. It's going down. It's not going up anymore. It's going down.
that's
Okay?
true. It's not. It's leveled off, but um, it's like not like it's down like to half. I mean, we got a drop by half. We got a drop of 60% after the first peak of the stuff, but now we're just looking at more of a leveling off.
Well, no, actually, it's at the lowest the lowest it ever was early July, and there was a point where only about 260 people in America died from it. Then we had a spike. It started to go up to over 1,000 a day, and now it's today, this morning, it was 460 people
Yeah,
who
because
died.
today's a Sunday because not that many
I know,
people.
but
All right, so
I know,
most Sundays,
but the two,
hold on, let's be clear with the
but
numbers. Most recent Sundays have been in the 500s,
right. So it's
523,
low. It's
550. Today it was four something. So yeah, it's down, but it's not like it's down. It's down from the 500s into the 400s.
Yeah, but my point is that the peak is also lower. So it's gone in one day down to about 900. So it's going down. If look, this is going to drive people nuts. If you want to see that it's going down, go to Worldometer USA, look at the numbers, and you'll see that the numbers of infected, numbers of cases, in spite of what Rick said, and numbers of deaths have been going down. And we may be seeing the end of this, as well as the marvelous treatment by Trump. So, do you have another topic?
Now let's finish this in that we're still looking at over 5,000 deaths per week, and so by election day, um,
If it doesn't change, but it's changing, Rick. You can't keep making these predictions that it's going to be 5,000 a day for the rest of the century
no,
until
but I
there's
can
no one
say
on the
this because
planet.
there are only 10 weeks left until the election, and we're still running 6,000 deaths a week, and we're at 180,000 dead. That's official U.S. deaths. Now, there are additional ones that haven't been counted. We don't need to argue about those, but just going off the official deaths and going off, just to be conservative, 5,000 a week, you're looking at 200. You're certainly looking at least 200,000 dead by election day, and probably more like 230,000 U.S. dead. And I did some math. I looked at like at what rate was Hitler killing people in his death camps, and I came up with a number that the people dying in America from COVID are dying at 1/6 the rate that Hitler was killing people in the last 2 years of World War II in his extermination camps, which I think that's a big fraction. But today I looked harder at the numbers, and it turns out that most of the people slaughtered by most of the Jews, the 6 million Jews, the 5 million other undesirables, gay people, communists, people with mental disabilities, just people Hitler didn't like, another 5 million, for a total of 11 million non-combatants, innocent non-soldiers killed by Hitler was 11 million. And I thought they were mostly killed in the camps. It turns out that only 2.7 million of them were killed in Hitler's death camps. You know, Birkenau, Auschwitz, Treblinka. So people are dying in America of the COVID, it turns out, at a rate that's fully 1/3 of the rate that Hitler was killing people in his death camps. So it's significant.
Unless it starts to go away, which is something that you never take into account with
No,
your
because we've
numbers.
talked, you said it would be at zero by now 6 weeks ago. You said it was 6 weeks till zero.
Okay, there was a spike, but I still think it's going away. I think it will go away.
Like a miracle?
Rick, the numbers have not reached the peak that they were in April. They're a long way from that. It's gone down about half, and there was a spike in mid-July, but it's going down again. And
So in April, the number of new cases per day were in the range of 25 to 30,000 new cases a day, with 8% mortality. Then 2 months later, when we started into this new spike, we were getting 50 to 75,000 new cases a day, but with fewer deaths because they'd learned how to treat it better.
Okay,
Um,
well, Rick, either way, it's going away. We're not going to have COVID 6 months from now. We're not going
we're
to.
still having more cases per day now, 40,000 plus, even with shitty levels of testing, even with a national testing shortage, compared to the initial peak of 30,000 per day when everybody was fucking dying because they hadn't figured out how to treat it yet.
Okay. Well, my point is this. Um, it is weakening. Less people are dying, and there's no way you can deny that. And I believe it will go away. Like all viruses, they go away. The Spanish flu went away, and
After
things go
two
away,
years,
right?
after two
Okay.
years
All
and
right. All right. Well,
650,000 U.S. dead.
okay. So I believe it will go away. Um, right now, we've reduced the mortality with this plasma by 35%. So that'll reduce the numbers of deaths as well, according to the FDA. So, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Um,
So let me ask you a question. Was there anything unusual that happened in the Russia hoax case this week?
Two things happened. One is that the FBI lawyer pled guilty to changing several words in a memo that was part of a legal filing to pertaining to Carter Page's involvement with the CIA, where this lawyer who pled guilty changed a couple words in some document with the effect of understating Carter Page's role as an informer, as a source for the CIA.
That's not what happened, Rick.
All right. So
So
anyway,
you've
that's
had your
one.
chance
Thing
to say,
two
now I'm
was
going to
thing
I
two. Hold
respond.
on. Thing two was that the results of the Senate investigation into Trump and Russia were released with, even though it was a Republican directed investigation in the Senate, because Republicans control the Senate, there was quite a bit of information that indicated coordination between Trump's people and the Russians.
No, that's not true.
Well, not
Okay.
true according to your media sources.
Trump had no coordination with the Russians. That's what the head of the committee said, and
The
that's what they
Republican
found.
head of the committee, but contradicting his own report.
No,
Roger Stone coordinated with.
what the report said was that Manafort had had talks with a Russian about sharing information with him on polling. That's not accepting Russian interference to destroy the Clinton campaign. That's the first thing.
What about the Roger Stone talking to the GRU guy about releasing stolen fucking emails the same day that Trump talked about grabbing pussies? That was pretty decent coordination.
Roger Stone wasn't. I don't believe Roger Stone was part of the Trump campaign.
Oh, just this private individual who likes to wear bowler hats.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get back to your first lie. It's necessary for your side to lie in order to win. Okay? So when I first asked you, you gave this very deceptive answer about how a few words had been changed by a lawyer on a meaningless memo.
I didn't say it was
What
meaningless.
happened? Well, about Carter Page, it sounded really insignificant. What happened was the FBI wanted to surveil the Trump campaign. They were spying on the Trump campaign. And
Wait, wasn't this memo in 2017?
this was, I believe,
No,
2016.
maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. And what happened was, in order to spy on the Trump campaign, what they did was they needed to find somebody and accuse them of being a Russian spy. So by doing that, what they could do is they could listen to all their phone calls and read all their emails, but they could also carry this out 2 levels beyond. So if Carter Page talked with someone in the campaign, they could listen to everything that other person was doing. And if that person talked to Trump, that meant they could spy on Trump. That's how it worked. There's a 2-level that you can go beyond when you're spying on somebody. You can spy on whoever they've talked to and whoever that person talks to. So by getting Carter Page, they could get to Trump. All right? So in order to do that, because it's illegal, they had to get a court order. And so what they did was um, they called up the CIA and they asked the CIA, does Carter Page work for you? And the CIA said, yes, he does. And so the lawyer wrote the opposite. The FBI lawyer changed the yes, he does to no, he doesn't. So what they were doing was they were saying that a man that was actually working for the CIA was not working for the CIA so that they could accuse him of working for the Russians. Now that's the Obama administration's way of using the FBI against his political opponents. And for almost 4 years now, you've been telling me that this was all conspiracy. And it turns out not only is he going to jail, but he pleaded guilty. There wasn't even a
Wait,
trial.
is he going to jail? What's happening to
Yes,
him?
he is. Yes, he
For
is.
how long? What's he going to? How long is he going to jail?
I don't know how long the sentence will be, Rick.
So he
But
hasn't been sentenced yet. The guy hasn't been sentenced yet, is what you're saying.
he pled guilty, and there is a jail sentence that is following this. It's not, he didn't plead guilty, and they're just going to let him go.
I
He
don't know.
pled
Fuck, Lori
guilty.
Loughlin pled guilty to bullshit involving trying to get her kid into USC.
Okay,
She's
Rick,
going to
please.
she's going to jail for 2 months, and she's probably going to
Okay,
get released after 3 weeks. So
Rick,
I don't
I'm not interested in Lori Loughlin. I really don't want to talk about that right now. I'm telling you that you were wrong for 4 years when you told me that I was lying and that it was a baseless conspiracy theory. Your man, who was working for the Obama administration, lied in order to target an American citizen, Carter Page and then Trump, and now he's pled guilty without even a trial because he can't possibly defend what he did. This was found by the IG report, who was an independent, the Inspector General, and now he's pled guilty and now he's going to jail. But that's not the end of it, Rick.
but
He's
also
going to.
let me throw in read about
That's not.
Carter
No,
Page.
I'm not finished. Don't interrupt
Okay.
me. He,
I mean,
the indications are that he did this at the behest of higher ups.
bullshit, fucking bullshit. That
Oh,
part's
you think he did it on his own, Rick? He did this on his own? Nobody
I don't
told him
think
to
there's
do it?
any evidence, and I'm not sure there's even any contextual indication that this guy was that I'm not sure that you can make an effective contextual argument that says that, well, obviously people were directing him from up above.
Well,
As
there were. Actually, the direction came from Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok, we don't know who gave him the order to change the I work for the CIA to no, I don't. But we know that Strzok and Comey, the head of the FBI and one of his chief subordinates, were requesting requesting permission from the FISA court to surveil the Trump campaign.
So, but
We
I mean,
know that.
even if what you say is accurate, and I'm not sure it is, um, that doesn't
Well, yeah, are you denying that?
that doesn't
Are you
support the
denying?
argument that they pressured this guy to change the memo or had any knowledge of any kind of fucking altered memo.
So it is your contention that this low-level lawyer wanted to surveil Carter Page, and Director Comey wanted to surveil Carter Page because he signed the warrant 4 times, but there was no connection between the two of them.
That there was no direction to this underling to say, fuck with this memo.
So it's your opinion. It's your opinion that Director Comey did not want to surveil Carter Page, even though he signed 4 warrants to do so.
You're misstating what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in an environment where I assume that at wherever all these guys were, the FBI, there's probably a lot of talk in the department about, well, let me get, you hate when I get personal, but let me get personal. When I was at Kimmel, I was desperate to get shit on TV, because I don't know, I was called an idiot not an insignificant number of times, and I kept wanting to prove myself of value to the fucking show, and also to keep my job. Um, and one way I thought of keeping my job would be to come up with shit that was show worthy. And in fact, I came up with a lot of shit, and it wasn't always jokes. Um, I would come up with facts that you could hang a joke on, because an interesting fact is a good way into a joke. But in my desperation, nobody told me to go looking for facts about the Kardashians or whatever fucking thing was in the news. But I had my niche. I felt it was my niche, that I could find information. Um, and sometimes in my desperation and enthusiasm, when I first started working on Kimmel, I had this OCD thing where I would not let myself go home for the day until I turned in 10 pages of material. Nobody told me to do that. In fact, they told me
Goodbye,
not
Rick.
to. All right, so we still have a fucking show? What happened here? JD? Well, I'll keep talking and then we can sign off. That's bullshit, but I'll finish up here. So, in my desperation to come up with shit, I would sometimes come up with facts that were either wrong or that didn't stand up to extended scrutiny. Like, I think one time I found a fact about like Motley Crue or Metallica, that while it was well known and all over the internet, it turned out that upon examination, well, and Kimmel mentioned it on the air, and then people wrote in and said, oh, by the way, while that is a thing that you can find on the internet, it turns out not to be true. And Kimmel had to say, sorry, we got that wrong, which got me in trouble. And one more example was, in LA, that the weather girls, the women who present the weather on the local news are super hot, right? Director? Yeah, so like Lauren Sanchez, who's now engaged to the world's richest man, started off as a weather presenter on local LA news. She's the most ballistic, she was the hottest of the weather girls, and she's in line to become the richest woman in the world. So I came up with a bit, LA weather person or Charlie Sheen girlfriend. And it was a game. We'd show a picture of somebody, and the audience would have to guess. Is it somebody who dated Charlie Sheen because he was in the news at the time, or is it somebody who shows the weather on TV? And it was a decent bit, except that in my desperation, we were like missing one slot for a Charlie Sheen girlfriend, and we kind of hurriedly plugged somebody in without maybe doing. It was my fault. I'm like, we did some research and we should have done just a little more, because it turned out it was somebody with a similar name who hadn't actually dated Charlie Sheen. And she had a good sense of humor, and she didn't mind. She said, well, that wasn't me. But still, I was fucking factually wrong. I got yelled at. And nobody told me to do any of this shit. The same way that the FBI guy's bosses didn't tell him to fuck with the memo. He was just trying to fucking do what he thought was appropriate, and it turned out to be wrong. But it wasn't a conspiracy. It wasn't a conspiracy for me to fuck up, occasionally fuck up a fact. It was my desperation to do my job. my enthusiasm for my job and my and fucking there's no indication that it was a conspiracy between Comey and this guy who pled guilty. So the end. I've played chess like 4 times in my life, and the last time was probably 38 years ago. So no, I don't really play chess. And that's it. I'm done except saying thanks for watching. We may start going more frequently because the news is just a shit avalanche fucking every day and every week. So we may try to do an episode right after the end of the RNC, but maybe not. We couldn't get it together to do it. Anyway, last week, we'll see. But anyway, in the meantime, like if you like this shit, um, you can kick us a few bucks at Lance vs. Rick. Lance versus Rick at paypal.com is our, at gmail.com is our PayPal address. And whether or not you do that, thank you for watching this stuff. Appreciate it. Why Donald Trump is our director saying he's playing YMCA at the end of all his rallies, um, which is um, that's interesting. It kind of makes sense given his demographic. YMCA came out in like what 1980, the song. Okay, so it's a 40-year-old song. So it's a high energy song. It gets everybody moving. You throw your arms at Y, M, C, A. Um, and his demographic, the average Trump voter, I think, is 56. So that leaves plenty of people who remember the song from when it was first released. Yet few people remember or realize that it's a song from the Village People about going to the YMCA and having anonymous gay sex. The, um, the Village People is a gay identified band from right before from the heyday of gay liberation. By the late 70s, gay men were reveling in their sexual freedom, their hard fought and hard won sexual freedom, only to be taken down a few years later by the AIDS epidemic. But in 1980, when the song came out, there was lots of anonymous gay sex happening at places where guys would go to, well, gyms and bathhouses. And the song was like yay for hooking up with other dudes at the YMCA, which was slightly notorious at the time for as being a place where gay guys would hook up. In the 40 years since, that understanding has disappeared. So it's now just a high energy song where people get to wave their arms around. And I assume he's also playing it at the end of his rallies because Queen maybe hasn't decided to tell Donald Trump to fuck off. Queen is a British band, so they don't. I don't even know if they're aware of it at this point. Their lead singer has been dead for 30 years. A lot of bands, when a political campaign whose point of view they don't agree with appropriates a song, they'll send a cease and desist letter. And Queen, who's old now, because wait, why did I say Queen? Fucking, oh my God, I just did a Hidden Fences faux pas. That's bad. But anyway, Village People doesn't exist as a band anymore. Sorry, I'm sorry for commingling Queen and Village People. I'm a fucking idiot, and I apologize. But anyway, Village People hasn't existed as a band, I don't think, in unless somebody tried to reform it in fucking 20 years or more. So there may be no band to hit Trump with a cease and desist letter. Tell him fucking cut it out. We don't agree with your politics. So, nobody remembers it's a gay anthem. It's a fun song, and there's no band that's, it's nostalgic for, like, it makes Trump people feel lively again. And there's nobody to tell them to cut it out. The end. No, because nobody, I've been to enough, I don't know, fucking weddings and bat mitzvahs and shit where YMCA gets played, and everybody knows that you're supposed to wave your arms around, and like when you're at a bat mitzvah and you're dancing with a bunch of parents and 13-year-old kids, everybody's dancing. No fucking bat mitzvah kid understands that it's a gay anthem. And to the adults, to the parents, you got 13-year-old kids, and then you have parents who are in their 40s who were not even 10 years old when the song came out, and then you have guys my age, and it's only guys my age and my wife, who realize, people who are 10 years away from being grandpas, that it's a gay anthem. The parents don't realize it. The bat mitzvah kids don't realize it. It's just a fun song that has arm motions. So no, he's not going for the gay vote.